everyone. Happy Thanksgiving week. Today's class is called Gratitude Attitude. And I'm not super about all these kind of cheeseball things, but when I think about gratitude and how to evoke more of it in my life, I think about how gratitude naturally happens when I'm paying attention more to what's going right in my life, which is actually the majority of things. So today's practice is going to be all about what's going right. And in order to fully experience that, we're going to do a fun and somewhat challenging series so that we can test ourselves in these different situations and really prepare ourselves for the week ahead. Before we get started, let me tell you how to move closer to us online. I hope you're subscribed right here on our YouTube channel. I also hope you're subscribed to our weekly Sunday love letter, which has tons of educational resources in it, and that you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. Alrighty, let's get started. We'll begin in a comfortable seated position, whatever that is for you. I'm going to take a seat up on this block. You're welcome to take a seat up onto a blanket, a pillow, or even up onto a chair if you like. The point isn't to remove all the flesh from the sit bones. The point is to get the sit bones to ground down evenly, left, right, front, and back. And so removing some flesh from underneath them can be in service of that, but we're not looking to spread them apart at all. So you want to feel grounded there. You want to feel like your leg bones are flowing down outwards from your pelvis so that your pelvis experiences a little bit of liberty here. And if your legs aren't doing that, that's a sign to you to get your bottom up onto something higher where your legs can flow down with a little bit more easier with the support of gravity. Take some time to allow your belly button to wash back and up through the chamber of the ribs, to feel your ribs lift on the side waist up out of the pelvis without feeling restricted or constricted, letting the breath flood evenly into all portions of the torso. Feel that the chest is lifting up through the window of the armpits, shoulders softening down from there, and that the skull is rising up and back, perched on top of the shoulders, just easy, just easy. And without doing any more of the checklist, let's see if we can allow ourselves to be embodied by healthy, uplifted posture. And let our attention flood evenly into all space in our body so that we're not trying to be rigid at all here. We're trying to be easy and natural and to optimize. Take a big full breath in through your nose and an easy exhale out through your mouth. And again. And again. If the eyes aren't already open, open the eyes, let the vision settle on the horizon, and let the vision not grasp onto anything. So even if things are happening, movement around you, kids, dogs, mailmen, whatever it is, see if you can let your vision stay broad and wide and all-encompassing, welcoming of all textures, all movements, all light. And it'll be kind of tempting to let the vision start to grab on when we start to move the skull through space, because then all of the objects are changing that we're looking at. So this is one of my favorite exercises. Let's see, can we keep our vision spread wide as we gently come from a seated position all the way to a tabletop position. And staying with the same eye work here, layer your hands down under your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. Take full breaths into your abdomen, and send your attention evenly into all parts of your body. Let's start flowing through cat-cows. So on the inhale, tailbone lifts, heart lifts, vision lifts, or head lifts rather. And exhale, everything squeezes in. Let's go back and forth like that. Try to experience your pelvis working evenly between your two legs, your shoulders working evenly between your two armpits. The next time you come to your cow position, that's the back bend, we're gonna press into the hands and keep the hips and the armpits, the space in between them, so our side waist, keep that evenly long. Push into your hands and take the hips back to the heels. So we're not changing the shape of the spine here. And in doing that, we're strengthening the legs and the hips and all of the muscles around the core that are holding the torso in this position. So you ready to trace back and forth with me? On your next inhale, ground into your shins, come back forward into cow pose. On your exhale, press back into a cow-ish child's pose. Inhale, press up. And exhale back. One more time. When you come back up, take an inhale. And on the exhale, round in, harden, chin in, belly button up, frontal hip bones up. Another full breath. Exhale, push into your hands, hips to heels, pause here. Keep now the angry cat shape in the spine. Inhale, press down, come forward. Exhale, press back. Inhale, forward. Exhale, back. Last one. Melt down to tabletop position here. Tuck the toes under. Hover the knees off the floor, push out through your hands, and then press up and back to downward facing dog pose. You can be kind of animalistic here. You don't have to be still. Your pose doesn't need to look a certain way. And in fact, a lot of times our body is very intelligent. So if we're able to send our attention into all parts of our body, that means everything's kind of efforting appropriately. Nothing's too out of place, nothing's overburdened, nothing's overstretched. And so let all of your physical adjustments be in service of getting the attention to spread evenly into all places. And that means being able to sense all pieces of your body in the same manner. Your back ribs, your front ribs, everything. When you're ready, you can take your time to walk forward with your feet or hop all the way through for a standing forward fold. And that's where we'll meet at the top of the yoga mat. You can have a soft bend into the knees. Nothing needs to be very strict here. Letting the spine waterfall, cascade out of the pelvis. You can sway a little bit here, side to side, whatever feels nice. The next inhale breath, wave out of your pelvis to a halfway lift mark. We're all going to be unique in space. Really get the pelvic bones to lift on the front and then really wave that out through the shoulders, through the skull. Get the front ribs to knit into the rib cage and then breathe into the back ribs. Get your natural curve in your low back. Use the effort of your legs here. Press down and breathe in again. Exhale, forward fold. Ground down through your feet. Inhale, wave out and up to the sky. Reach the arms. And exhale, slide the hands down in front of the chest. Take the feet together if that works for you. If not, hips width distance apart will be just fine. Bend the knees a little bit, ensure that they point straight ahead, and as you bend, get a little bounce in them. Bounce your legs in such a way that the inner and outer seam are working evenly, so that the pelvis is stable in this movement. Now, make this movement a little bit more dramatic so that we can start to enter a chair pose. Use the hamstrings here. Squeeze them up into the thigh bones. Lengthen the heart out from the hip bones. You can take your arms in any position that feels good here. When you're ready, come onto your tiptoes. Can you slide the back of the pelvis down onto the heels for a toe stand? Remember, the floor is always right here. And if you're working towards the pose, you can work towards thighs parallel with the ground, shoulders stacking over the hips, and skull pulling back over that. Soften the hips down to the ground. Take the feet up. You can simply roll out through the feet here. So stretch and curl into your toes. Just things that feel just nice. And if you want more support for your boat pose, always feel like you can take your hands down behind you and press your way up out of that for a neutral spine position. If you think you can manage on your own using the muscles of your spine, your belly, and your legs, then take your hands behind your thighs. Balance on the sitting bones here. Get the natural curve in your low back, so the low back presses forward, belly button washes to the spine and up, and from here, take your shins toward parallel with the ground, boat pose. Work on your spine, work on your legs, work on your attention. Most of all, be soft in your vision, in your jaw, in your tongue. Let's lengthen out to a half boat. So that's legs out, belly button back, lengthening out through the skull. Let's breathe in. And on the exhale, squeeze the knees to the armpits and come up. Okay? We're gonna go for 3 more of those. Inhale, stretch out. Exhale up. Inhale out. Exhale up. Inhale out. Exhale up. Inhale out. And exhale, release down to the ground. Step the feet in close to the pelvis. Knees point straight ahead. Press down with the feet to lift the hips just a little bit. Let the tailbone go towards the backs of the knees. That'll take the hamstring and the buttocks muscles together. Fire them together to start to lift the pelvis up. And then at the same time, drag the knees forward, thigh bones forward, so that they're assisting the pelvis, lengthening the low back away from the chest. Just a baby bridge pose here. Use your feet, use your backs of your legs to get your hips higher. Soften the ribs down. Lift the chin or the chest towards the chin and the chin away from the chest. Relax the hips down in space. Draw the knees into the chest. Hug behind the legs and then do whatever feels good. Rock left to right, front to back, whatever. And we'll come back to, we'll actually come to a squat. So heels in, toes out, squat on down. For my friends whose heels are lifting or otherwise this is just too much on your knees, you can make a similar shape on a chair. You can prop your bottom up on a block or roll up a towel for underneath your heels. For my friends who want to go into a crow pose or a crow pose prep here, this is the starter position because it's getting our knees and our armpits really close together. So we're working that relationship. We're working our angry cat pose in our spine. So belly button going out. You can even like really round down forward here. Reach the hands well forward, elbows going in, and then lift up onto your tippy toes and take the tricep or the elbows to the triceps. When you lean so far forward that the elbows go over the wrists, the feet will naturally find opportunity to lift. Soles of the feet down to the ground. Root down. Can we all find now chair pose? So going back to that first pose. Take a breath in. And exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, hands down. Step the legs back one at a time, downward facing dog. Next breath in, roll forward, high plank pose, top of a push-up. Soften here, soften your jaw, soften your head. When you're ready, whatever method you're comfortable with, come all the way down onto the belly. We're down here. We can soften the skull, soften the tops of the hands one to each other. And we'll work just with the legs and the hips here, preparing for our back bend series. So take the tailbone towards the backs of the knees. The frontal hip bone should be on the ground, or some flesh in between the frontal hip bones should be on the ground, just depending on how each one of us is shaped. Now, we want to keep that action so that we're actually targeting a stretch through the front of the leg. Now, isolate just your left leg, bend into the knee, and pull the heel towards its own glute. Then lengthen that leg back down. And now we're trying to do this. We'll take that movement 3 or 4 more times, but keeping the pelvis super duper stable. When we're finished with that side, we can go right to the other. So the right foot bending back. This is really training the pelvis to stay put when the legs start asking it to go in different directions for back bending purposes. So once we've gotten that both equal on the same side, hopefully you feel like an engine has been turned on in the lower abdomen, which is knitting and helping to hold the pelvis in place. So now with all of that, take your hands back, pinkies face the sky. Now keep the pelvis exactly as it is, but lift your right leg up off the ground. Now keep your pelvis exactly as it is and lift your left leg off the ground. Keep the tailbone flowing to the backs of the heels, and instead of lifting your legs higher, stretch them out, toes out. Now breathe 3-dimensionally into your ribs and start to lift your ribs off the ground, reaching your pinkies up to the sky and back. Lengthen your chest forward. Soften your hands down underneath your elbows. Soften your legs, but keep their strength as you press into the hands to take weight into them for cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, use your belly to pull the pelvis up and back, downward facing dog. Send your attention into your entire body, and we'll keep the left leg. Well, we'll actually keep the whole body very, very stable here. Keep your attention with what is to remain stable so that you can ensure that it does. Then, without changing how the left leg is working or how the pelvis is working, lift your right leg all the way up to the sky. Not all the way. Sometimes that produces dramatic movement. This is intelligent movement, deliberate movement. Maybe isn't even that high up. Exhale, bring the knee forward, squeeze it into the chest, round your back like angry cat, and take the foot down to the floor. You can use your hand to help it forward if you feel like you got some more space there. And from here, ground your left heel down naturally. The toes will point open. Press down through your feet, round up, and we'll prepare for a warrior one. Warrior one, the right knee tracks straight over the right second toe. Pull the frontal hip bone back, especially that right one, so you're getting space through that front right groin. And now put your attention in your back heel. Ground down through the center of your back heel bone and let that energy ride up evenly through the inner and outer seam of the left leg. Your pelvis will be open at an angle, but take your hands to your ribs. get long there, pull your skull back, and then turn the ribs into a twist forward. Use your legs evenly, even though they're doing separate things, to root down into their grounding points and draw into the pelvis to level and stable the effort. And then take the arms skyward. Now, slightly different. Lift the back heel, turn the pelvis forward. Notice if the pelvis gets kinky between the two sides, like it sways off to one side or the other. Use your hands even to help guide it into proper positioning between your two legs as you again come to high lunge. Right knee down, frontal hip bones drawing back into the body, both of them. Side waist growing evenly long out from the pelvis. And triceps lifting. The lifting of the triceps should actually trigger a deeper stretch of your left hip. Now keep this lift, this uprightness. Cactus the arms here. Start to peel the chest open. Lengthen from the side waist out through the armpits as you look up to the sky. A little balance there. Take the arms up, slide the hands down, straighten the front leg, launch forward to balance. Bring your left knee up. When your left knee comes up, check out your pelvis because a lot of times it can get wonky here. It definitely does for me. But we'll do a best service for our stabilizer muscles to hold the pelvis strategically neutral between the two legs and to not budge on that. As you don't budge on that, squeeze your left knee into your chest a little bit more. Lengthen your side waist. You can lift your arms up to the sky. For an added challenge, if you want, you can stretch your left leg forward. When you're ready, take your left foot down to the floor. Reach all the way up to the sky. Take a big breath in. And on the exhale, fold to the ground. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, hands down. Step the feet back one at a time, downward facing dog pose. Send your attention evenly into your entire body. Stay very stable with the right leg, with the pelvis. As you gently pull the left foot off the ground and stretch it back for one-legged dog. Taking a moment to reestablish attention. Then exhale, bend the knee, bring the knee forward, ground the foot down in between the hands or as close to it as you can. Soften here, soften the back heel down to the ground, toes pointing forward, upright the torso. Pelvis stable between the two legs, and that just means its frontal hip bones are pointing in the direction of the knees. So the back knee is open a little bit, the frontal hip bone's open. Left frontal hip bone is in line with the left knee, center of the thigh bone, the knee, tracking over the ankle. Spending some time to establish attention, establish length in the torso, twist in the torso. A twist in the torso without pulling on anything in the pelvis, without pulling on anything in the legs. And then lifting the back heel off the floor, turning the pelvis forward now. Now we're in high lunge. Now we're reestablishing the pelvis. We're reestablishing the relationship between the legs. Personally, the underside of my left leg and my left glute is burning up. So taking the arms skyward. To cactus the arms if you want. Practice the lift though. We're not even really arcing back. It's just a lift. Take the arms up, straighten the front leg, come into balance. Woo! With that right leg coming up, And we're just taking each our own time here. Squeezing onto the leg, centering, leveling off the pelvis, leveling off the side waist. Then using the hands to squeeze the knee deeper into the chest without compromising the neutrality in the pelvis. Added challenge, arms up. Added challenge, right leg straightens. And right leg down. Arms down. Soften out here. You can take some breaths out through the mouth. Our last standing posture. On your next inhale, take a big breath in, reach up. And exhale, hands down to the floor, forward fold. Inhale halfway. And exhale, hands down. Step the feet back one at a time, downward facing dog. Okay, our kind of last heat building posture, soften down to the knees. If you're tender on your knees, feel free to add some cushion underneath it by doubling up your yoga mat like so. Or using a blanket. Okay, the legs work in back bends is to be neutrally rotated or internally rotated to assist with lengthening out the low back. So you find what works for you here. And then I like to just kind of wiggle around a little bit so that I can feel my pelvis evenly between my two legs because I don't trust it to be even, quite honestly. And I don't know if you should either. Now, take your muscles to your bone, but not in a severe way, not in a rigid way, just in a calm, easy, warm way. Take your hamstrings into your thigh bones so they're supported from the back. Take your glutes into your pelvis, down towards your hamstrings. If that already triggers a stretch in your front pelvis, good. Now, breathe from your front pelvis back and up through the chamber of your ribs. You can take your hands to your low back. Now keep your hamstrings and your glutes supporting your pelvis pretty much here. The whole system can push forward a little bit. Now breathe into your lower abdomen, draw it back to the sacrum as you start to lift the chest. Look up even. And so you just work in what makes sense for you. The whole front body should not be thrusting forward at any point. It should be knitting into itself and drawing back like a bow into the back body. You may change your hand position by reaching down the leg or for the ankles. You may not. It doesn't really matter. But take 2 more breaths here. And then come on up out of that, hard up. Maybe tuck the toes under if you can, if that feels okay. Sit back onto the heels. Close the eyes. We'll spend the rest of our practice in a seated position. So if that's not good for you, come on down to your back and you can do approximately the same thing that we do in a seat, just on your back. So whatever seated position you took before, take the opposite version with your legs if it was an asymmetrical pose. And find a moment to come into the pose the way that we did to start our practice. Let's use our next inhale breath to take the arms skyward. And let's not do this at the expense of the torso or the rib cage. Keep all of that knitting in together.
Do you want to not do that? This is rigorous.
That's okay.
Okay, this should be good.
Okay. Let's use our next inhale breath to take the arms skyward. And let's not do this at the expense of the torso coming unhinged. So keep the front ribs knitting in, triceps lifting up. Take a big full inhale into your 3-dimensional torso. And on your exhale, slide your hands down in front of your heart. Your next inhale, keep the torso unified, knit together. And on your exhale, spin your heart over to the right. Now take out any side bend here, lengthen from the side waist up to the armpits vertically, and then leave the pelvis out of it. Use the legs to hold the pelvis in neutral. Sprinkle the hands into a more helpful position maybe. Right hand to the ground, left hand to the right leg. And use your inhales to restore vertical length to the spine, and use your exhales to take up your rotational potential. When you're ready, inhale, take the arms skyward, the heart forward. Exhale, hands down in front of the chest. Inhale, more vertical length into the spine. And exhale, we're gonna spin the heart over to the left. And again, we're gonna breathe that vertical length into the spine. We're gonna use our legs to hold our pelvis in place. And then release the hands to a more helpful position. So the right hand on the left leg, the left fingers sprinkle behind. And using this opportunity to let the inhales fill up the vertical demands of the torso and the exhale to fulfill rotational potential. At the rib cage, that's really where the twist originates from. That's where we're looking to get the most mobility here. When you're ready, unwind back through center, reach the arms all the way up to the sky. And on the exhale breath, slide the hands down in front of the chest. From here, let's relax the hands down to the legs, soften the eyes to a close, and we'll take a seated Shavasana today. Just a few moments of silent sitting and an opportunity not to mentally go back and pick apart anything or really to do any sort of mental or psychological reflection, but to just put ourselves in the position of understanding how much in our lives is going right. In fact, each moment of our lives, even the ones that seem like they're not going the right way, ultimately are going the right way. From here, when you're ready to blink your eyes open, you can do that. Let your vision again soften on the horizon and spread out. And take another moment for yourself before moving on with your day. Thank you so much for joining in today's practice. I'll see you next week for a new class.